The following is brought to you by Amity Innovations. Whether you're building a new home or remodeling, call the green builders you can trust at 832-331-3580. Amity Innovations, where we create the difference.
You're listening to the Smells Like Middle-Aged Spirit podcast.
What smells so bad?
It's strong, but you'll get used to it. Now, here are your hosts, Nick Stevenson and Naomi Richardson.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again. Whatever time of day it is, wherever you may be listening in the world, welcome to episode 47 of the Smells Like Middle-Aged Spirit podcast. We are coming to you from the Stephen Terry Pest Elimination Studio in Deer Park, Texas. I am your gracious and humble host, Nick Stevenson, and the queen of podcasts, Naomi Richardson's in the building. Whoop, whoop. By now, you already know who's behind the ones and twos. The bearded producer himself, Josh Beard. What's going on, fella?
What's going on?
And we are joined by a very special guest. We are joined by Minnie, middle initial L, correct?
Yes, sir.
Wood. And the reason that Mrs. Wood has joined us today, she's the co-founder of a nonprofit group called Universal Agape Love. Now, Universal Agape Love has a very inspiring purpose, and one that you guys know here at the Smells Like Middle-Aged Spirit podcast we are definitely down with. They provide resources to, I would say mostly women, right, who are survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. I'm assuming if a man came to you and asked for help, you guys wouldn't turn him down, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I think statistically, though, you're probably dealing with more women in this particular venture that you've decided to reach out to people for. And it's a beautiful thing. We're all about that here. We actually have an entire section of our store dedicated to domestic violence awareness, the Caitlin Strong collection. Anybody who's familiar with the show and listened frequently, they know that's a cause we can get behind. So when I was first put in contact with you by our mutual friend, Stephanie Augenbaugh, and she told me what you guys were having a fundraiser. And help me out with the name of your fundraiser again, because I mispronounced it. It's the Country Chic, not Country Chick.
Yeah.
Country Chic.
Red carpet.
Red carpet.
Event.
Okay, awesome. Turn her mic up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
There you go. All righty. It's okay. You have a soft voice. I think we have different people in this chair at all times, so you kind of have to adjust. Anyways, so she told me about that event, and we were hoping to get you on the show to promote that, but unfortunately scheduling didn't allow that. But I told you I'm still going to share it. I'm going to post it. I'm going to get the word out there. It's something that we're excited about. We're passionate about. We want to help you get the word out. And I asked you to please come on the show, and here you are. So we thank you so much for finally joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What you did not know at the time is that your husband happens to be my superior at work. Now I have to assume you told him you were coming on this podcast today. Okay. So he knew you were coming, and I'm pretty sure he's aware that this is my podcast.
Yeah.
So he's just he keeps it that close to the vest, man. And I'm not surprised at all. Ben is usually very to himself.
A man of few words.
Right. Man of few words. If you ask him for anything, it's to the point, get it done, and have a nice day.
That's right.
I'll behave myself today just for you, Nick.
Hey, it's cool. As long, I have nothing bad to say about Ben. I think he's awesome. And nobody's gonna be able to say I said otherwise. Yeah. That's for sure.
Nick's job is just right on the line right now. So just think about that as we proceed forward.
No pressure.
The rest of it. No
pressure at all. No, but I found that interesting. And what's funny is we'll get into it as we went over and discuss some of the details of your story. Like, I feel like I became closer to Ben without him even knowing it. Like,
He has no idea yet.
he has no clue. Like, I like this guy a lot. Not that I didn't like him before.
Yeah.
But like, it was a whole nother level at this point. So we'll get into that because we want to hear about your story and what inspired you to start this venture with a few friends of yours. So we will do that. But first, let's get into the headlines of the week. Shall we, Maestro?
Headlines.
What it do, people? A small town in Florida accidentally sold its water tower in a blundered real estate transaction. A businessman purchased a municipal building underneath the city of Brookville's water tower last April for $55,000. What a steal! With the goal of converting it to a gym. However, when Bobby went to the county to get an address for his new business location, he was told the parcel he bought included the entire water tower site. So
Put the gym in the water tower.
yeah.
Boom.
Leave it to Florida once
yeah,
again.
Way to go, Florida. Florida. That's crazy.
The Girl Scouts have an unusual problem this year: 15 million boxes of unsold cookies. Who'd have thunk it? The 109-year-old organization says the coronavirus is the main culprit. As the pandemic wore into the spring selling season, many troops nixed their traditional cookie booths for safety reasons. The impact will be felt by local councils and troops who depend on the cookie sales to fund programming, travel, camps, and other activities. The Girl Scouts normally sell about 200 million boxes of cookies per year, or around $800 million worth.
I'm going to go ahead and blame my family
Wow.
because we haven't bought the usual 700 boxes we normally buy.
Oh my, that is
probably-
a lot of cookies.
It's probably us.
Jesus.
Gotta love those caramel delights, baby.
Thin mints.
Yes.
Thin mints, baby.
Yeah.
Thin
Out of
mints
the
in
freezer.
the freezer.
Yes.
So I'm the only caramel delight guy at the table. That's what we're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
vanilla.
Yep.
What? Okay. That's a whole podcast episode
do
that we
it.
can have later.
Texans are being asked to reduce their electric use as much as possible for, who knows how long with the summer here on our doorstep. Electric demand was predicted to outpace supply as temperatures soar into the triple digits. You can reduce your electric usage by setting the thermostat to 78 degrees or higher is what ERCOT says. I've got to know how many people of you out there are setting your thermostat to over 78 degrees.
I'm just gonna let you guys know right now, if that's the requirement for keeping your power on, we might lose power in the middle of this podcast.
Like, okay, y'all,
Just be
Whoops.
forewarned.
get them generators now.
Should have called Amity.
Yep, get them generators from Amity now. They say, set your thermostat to 78 degrees or higher,
Get outta
close the curtains or blinds, and turn off
Check.
and unplug non-essential devices like lights and pool pumps.
And Roadcaster Pros.
Like, we're trying to cool ourselves off in our pools, and no, set them off. Those with critical
Where
needs.
are we supposed to be? This is supposed to be fixed after the winter thing, right?
It's the government, and all that takes so much longer than necessary.
Yeah. I'm
They
sorry.
got to make their money somehow.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Rude.
Strike one.
Those with critical medical needs should get in touch with their local electricity providers to create a plan right now in case controlled outages are put in place. So seriously, get on that because summer is just now starting and it's only going to get worse. So if you do have a medical need, please take care of that. Put some contingency plan in place. When demand is higher than the electricity supply, ERCOT will begin its emergency operations to protect the grid from an uncontrolled outage. And it will institute controlled outages as a last resort, like what we experienced in February.
We're all going
So-
to your house anyway, since you didn't lose power that entire time.
Slumber
All the airport
party.
peeps. Yeah, we're going to go to your
Pillow
house.
fight.
Have a slumber party.
I didn't lose power either.
You live too far away.
All right, Nick. I remember that.
I'm just saying.
You say that, but I drive here every week to do this
and
podcast.
we love you for it, buddy.
Well, if you didn't, you wouldn't have a producer.
Are you going to start asking for a gas stipend?
That's love.
I don't know. I might have to. I might have to ask for a raise since I'm the only one over here doing this now.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so the Florida selling the water.
Florida, man. What's in the water in Florida?
I'm just saying.
What's not in the water?
So I'm
is
assuming,
Florida.
did that article say what the resolution was? Like, they're probably going to have to.
The
I mean,
guy-
you're the realtor. What happens when there's accidentally property on your property that you've just bought that
I
belongs?
mean, technically, if it was part of the plot of land and transferred over legally, he owns it.
Yeah. Fortunately for the town, the guy did give it back in a deed, and I think the guy in charge of the mistake actually resigned. Which
I would
is-
too, and
Yeah.
seclude myself from the rest of the world.
The town it's a small town.
there's
I mean,
a lot of
probably
that
pretty
messing
close to
up
Deer
and then
Park.
resigning going on.
He probably was never mind. I can't say that. Never mind.
Man, look, no one's
Gotta
perfect.
stay in my
Okay,
lane.
if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. He gave it back. Like you shouldn't.
Right.
I don't think people should be so pressured these days to be freaking perfect.
That's
like,
true.
Everyone makes mistakes. Show me someone who's perfect.
Yeah, that's true. I've probably
gonna
done
happen.
the equivalent of
Nick strives to be
accidentally selling
perfect.
a water tower.
Get off your pedestals.
Everybody should strive for it, but don't
strive for
when
perfection.
you fall short, don't beat yourself up about it.
That sounds like that cheesy line. Even if you shoot for the stars and you miss, you'll land among the
Did you read that under a Snapple lid?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's a Snapple fact.
Alrighty. All right. Thank you very much, Naomi. That was headlines for the week. And those headlines were brought to you by Stephen Terry Pest Elimination. And we will hear an ad for him now. Hey guys, Nick Stevenson here. Thanks for listening to the Smells Like Middle-Aged Spirit podcast. Before we get back to it, I want to tell you about my buddy Stephen Terry at Stephen Terry Pest Elimination. Now I know what you're thinking. Not another pest control business. The real pest is that guy who's always knocking on my door, leaving door hangers, and calling at the worst times of day. Not Stephen Terry. Stephen Terry lets his work and his customer service speak for itself. Word of mouth from customers that he has personally helped, and I am one of them. Stephen Terry is always the first person I call. Whether it was the time he treated my house for ants, I haven't seen an ant around here in so long, I forgot what they look like. What's an ant? I don't know. Stephen Terry got rid of them all. Or how about the time he helped my son get rid of the pesky possums that were eating our garbage? Stephen Terry caught them and released them back into their natural habitat, and most importantly, out of my natural habitat. If you're in the Southeast Houston area, that's Leak City, Webster, Clear Lake, all the way up to Pasadena, Deer Park, and LaPorte, you've got to give Stephen Terry a call. Right now through November, Stephen Terry is offering a monthly mosquito treatment. Guys, summer is right around the corner. Do you want to be having a barbecue or a crawfish boil with the kids playing in the backyard or in the pool getting eaten alive by mosquitoes? Of course you don't. So give Stephen Terry a call at 713-477-0047. Tell him you heard about him on the Smells Like Middle-Aged Spirit podcast, and he will give you half off your first month's mosquito treatment. That's 713-477-0047. Stephen Terry Pest Elimination. If it's scary, call Stephen Terry. Alrighty, you guys give Stephen Terry a call because the mosquitoes are out there.
And giant ones.
Yes.
I had one on me the other day. It was huge.
They look like mosquito hawks.
Yes, but
yeah.
they're like
Mosquitoes.
You know it's bad when you can hear the mosquito sucking your blood.
Yes.
Like you hear the
Yeah.
through the
You hear him unwrapping the straw.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Alrighty. Well, Minnie, once again, thank you for putting up with this while we over here bullshitting shenanigans.
Of course.
But that's what we do. But we appreciate you finally joining us. Like I said, the cause of universal agape love is something we're definitely down with. Now, it's been a little bit of an education for me over the past couple of years because I was never face to face with domestic violence. I didn't experience it. I didn't ever see it. I had heard about it, but hearing some of the stories, you know, when we were talking on the phone preparing for this, I told you, I figured at some point over the past few years, I've heard multiple stories of women who've dealt with certain things. And you would think at a certain point, it would just be like, humdrum. But like I had a really hard time not being emotional as you told me your story today, because every single time it's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It just gives you this feeling like in the pit of your stomach, like no human should have to go through that.
Exactly.
But the fact that you did and you survived it, it's also very inspirational. So I want to talk a little bit about your story. Like I'll tell you the same thing I tell everybody. We don't have to get into anything you don't want to. If I ask a question that's off limits, you can say, I don't want to talk about that, and we'll move on.
It's a no judgment zone.
There shouldn't be any surprises. We did talk ahead of time. I don't think I'm going to ask you anything that we haven't talked about already, but something may pop up that I forgot to ask, and if it's out of the realm of your comfort, then we won't talk about it. But I want to give everybody a little background about why this cause is important to you.
Absolutely.
And so let's establish, Minnie L. Help me pronounce your maiden name. It's Bottas. Bottas?
Yes.
Okay. Minnie L. Bottas was born in Baytown and raised in Dayton.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's in my notes here. So, talk about your life growing up at first. Do you remember living in Baytown? How long were you
Yeah,
there?
actually, I was there from birth until the 5th grade. the neighborhood was getting a little bit rough.
Yeah.
A lot of drug deals going on, things of that nature.
Right.
Parents said it's time to get out, so we moved to the boondocks.
Going to the country
Yeah,
Gonna eat a lot of peaches.
there we go.
for sure. So you go to Dayton.
Yes.
And how old were you when you moved to Dayton?
I was attending the 6th grade when I moved to Dayton.
Okay.
That's a tough age for that kind of change too.
Good Lord, yes. It was a culture shock, too.
Absolutely, I bet it was.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as a kid, all the way through high school, you were in Dayton.
Yes.
Okay. And at various points from childhood all the way to, I guess we can call it young adulthood,
Yeah.
you had had experiences, run-ins with either some type of domestic violence, physical abuse, and even sexual abuse.
Yes.
And so those were things that you had to deal with all the way up until being of high school age.
Yes.
I think you said it was your junior year in high school that
Yes.
you became fostered.
Yes.
Okay. And who was the foster family that took care of you?
Well, I still call her Sister Carol or Nanny. She was a foster mom of mine, and she was actually a pastor out in Dayton. And she took me in, and they showed me what a loving home was and adopted me, and they still talk to me to this day. So I was really blessed in that misfortune.
That's
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I'm assuming that because you left your home and from your family, there probably wasn't a lot of support for you coming in from that direction.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. It was something that was not discussed with church family on my mom's side or through family. Our inner family is actually very ignorant to what was going on at home as well. So very old school mentality, keep your family business within your family.
Because
Right.
ignorance is bliss, right?
right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, so.
Exactly.
That is the unfortunate truth for a lot of people. So I think there's going to be some people listening to this who will probably be able to identify with that and know what you were going through. So can you tell me a little bit about what the effect of going from that toxic environment to a more nurturing environment, what it had on you initially?
So initially it was really rough because I got to, the pivotal moment that actually threw me into foster care, I went back to school with black eyes. The whites in my eyes were black. Everybody pretty much knew my business because a week after missing school, I'm still messed up when I go back. So I got to go back to school and experience that and homeschool. Foster care was notified from a neighbor, actually. A good friend of mine called and reported it and was the one
rightfully
to do
so.
it. Exactly. I respect them for that and still
Yes.
love them for that. It's a hard decision to make as a parent and adult to make that phone call when you see something, not knowing how it's going to affect a child. But
Right.
Absolutely.
in my case, it worked out in my favor. But things were rough, and then I had to go to a new school with black eyes still. So I got to leave my old school jacked up and go to a new school messed up. You know, it was a really hard adjustment. There was no family to reach out to. The people that were friends didn't know the situation. And the year prior to, I had lost my very good, close best friend. One of my only really good friends that knew about my home life. I lost her suddenly to a brain aneurysm.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
So I lost my only confidant as well, right prior to the event. So it was a lot of adjustment. There was nowhere really to turn to, having to deal with not understanding why you can't see your family. Also dealing with the fact that you still love your family, but you're scared to be around them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's it's a very tearing feeling as a
Absolutely.
child. Then you don't want to speak bad on your family either.
Yes,
You know,
of
even
course
still
not.
presently as an adult, you know, you don't like really sharing this story because you feel like you're outing your own family and you love them, you know, in spite
Right.
of it.
Conflicting.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I did notice in my notes here a small gap, so I want to ask you. As a teenager, you said you were junior in high school. Once you finally got into an environment where you weren't abused and you had this nurturing environment that you were in, did you feel like, you know, teenagers react different ways? Did you have a rebellious streak?
No.
Did you see it as an opportunity to walk the straight and narrow? And
I viewed it as it wasn't even so much of how I could view it at the time mentally. It was just accepting it for what it was, which was a breath. I mean, that's just the simplest way to put it, was a chance to breathe and a chance to evaluate and realize what it was to not have to come home and have a bad grade or because of being stressed out from the home life and being punished severely for it, things of that nature. Still going out and having family time in spite of the fact that you know, you made a bad grade or did something bad. It never affected the love that was there. It was unconditional. So, man, it was just a blessing. I viewed it as a blessing. I mean, in spite of the fact I had nowhere to turn, family hated me. I knew there was the worst places to be. I was going to be brought to Galveston, where the CPS facility is there. And after I was in foster care within a limited amount of time, shortly after my arrival with my pastor, I had seen a news flash come on about the Galveston area, about where they keep the foster cares there. And somebody had just been arrested for sexually assaulting the foster care kids. Ugh. And I had realized at that moment, you know, that could have been me.
Yes.
I mean, I could have had it a lot worse. So I guess I always just learned to be thankful.
Absolutely.
You know,
that system could definitely use a little bit of looking into.
That's no lie.
Yeah. I know some good people who have lost their kids for
nothing.
For nothing.
Yep.
For nothing. Because a neighbor didn't like some decision that they did, and their kids were taken away from them. Now they eventually got them back, but that was after like 8 months.
Jumping through hoops.
Yes, jumping through hoops, and the kids were never the same. Yeah. This mom that I know is just absolutely heartbroken, and she can't fix anything. She doesn't know what to do, and it breaks my heart. That should be a last resort.
That's the dilemma for making that phone call.
Yes.
Is because you wonder, am I going to be doing more harm than good?
Exactly.
Yes.
And I guess, like you said, in your situation, it did more good than harm. And that's, you hope that that's more times the case than not.
Yes.
But it is the very difficult war within yourself when you feel like you might need to make that phone call.
Yeah. And I did end up having to go back. I had the option of pressing charges or going into a foster care facility because I was too old. They said it would have taken too long for her to legally adopt me.
Okay.
So my option was either go to the foster care facility or go back home. So I went back home.
Yeah.
So, you know, months after the event had happened.
You went back home with them knowing that someone was trying to adopt you?
Yeah.
That must have been tough.
Yes, I was no longer, they didn't want me speaking to them or anything. There was a lot of animosity there.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine being in that environment.
Yeah.
With the lack of support and love that you had in your own family, can you talk a little bit about your desire to have your own family and start anew?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so growing up, one of the rough things I think was worse mentally was I wasn't permitted really to cry. I wasn't permitted to go to my room and sulk. If I had got a spanking, we had to sit there and act as if everything was fine.
Wow.
This is a lot of different kinds of abuse going on.
Yes, a lot. And it was a generational issue too. As an adult, I realized that.
I can understand that, but
still,
yeah.
So for me, that was the hardest thing, and I would always revert back to my safe place. My safe place is, I even wrote it in my diary, was I would always tell myself one day I'd have my own family, I would have my own loving family, and no one can hurt us. And that was my cling to happy spot when I wasn't permitted to cry and I wasn't permitted to show emotion.
You must be mentally capable and very strong to hold on to that ideal while you're going through all of this. And good for you. I mean, there's so many women out there who don't have that kind of mental aptitude and fortitude. So good on you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that must have been incredibly difficult.
Yeah. I think that's the experience of a lot of people who don't experience love in their family growing up. They say, "Well, I'm going to do it better.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to create a family that everybody loves and supports one another and no one hurts each other."
Now you've just got even more love to give.
That's
right. And that's a very beautiful and noble thing. The problem is that oftentimes those people don't recognize what real love is.
That's right.
Because they've never experienced it. And oftentimes those people will end up moving on to more of the same.
Exactly.
In search of what they are hoping is going to be what they've always wanted.
Or just giving everything just to have it
Right.
at a total price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was what I did.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that.
Yeah.
At I believe you said age 21,
Yes, sir.
you met the man who would eventually become your husband. Mm-hmm. And I believe you said he was 12 years older than you?
Yeah, 12 years my senior.
Okay. And so when you met this person, you probably had all the thoughts in your head about this is the person, we're going to start a family.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. You were going to fix him?
I was gonna change the world with this one man, you know. And self-reflecting back, I feel like the biggest issue in that was a man that was damaged, needing control, and a woman that was broken, way too willing to give it.
Right.
So it was gasoline and fire, you know, and that's what it was. We got married at 21, and I said, okay, this is who I'm gonna be with, and I got a lot to give, so he's gonna love me, right? You know, he has so much he's been through, and I'm gonna make it right. I'm gonna go in there and fix all of it. He had issues with his kids, and I was like, we're gonna fix that. Issues with baby mamas, ex-wives, I'm gonna fix that. I'll fix it all. I don't care.
We got this.
We got this. I'm a superwoman. And you know, but then it just it cost me. You know, it became to where it was, what can I give to make him more happy? And it became to where it was, let me change my makeup because he doesn't like my makeup. He says I look like a clown. I'm a little chunky, so let me lose a little bit of weight. Well, now I'm too old to wear this or too young to wear that. And this makeup is either too much or too little, and I talk too much or I don't talk enough.
The bar was always being moved for you.
Always, constantly over the 8 years, and to the point to where I said, forget it. I won't go anywhere. We'll stay home, and I'll just, if that's what it takes to have a happy home life, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So
I don't know. It's so difficult for me to believe that so many women fall into that. And I get it because you're just like, you've got this ideal and you're just going through the motions, and it doesn't happen all at once, but day by day by day, you're just slowly slipping and giving a little bit more of yourself.
I call it the slow whittling away.
Yeah. I bet that's exactly
But
what it
Minnie,
feels like.
Exactly.
It's honestly what you were conditioned for
Yes, growing
Yeah.
up.
Yes.
from childhood
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
you didn't know what real love meant.
No.
You didn't know what it looked like, what it felt like.
I knew what it was to give and for it
Right.
not to be accepted. And I was...
Yeah.
I was the giver. I'm still am a giver. So I didn't let it
And there's
take it
nothing
away from
wrong
me.
with that, but
Yes.
there's a two-way street there.
Got my boundaries now.
Yeah.
Good for
So
you.
mentioned that you ran into a person who was broken yet
Yes.
needed control. Do you want to get into the devices that he used to
So-
keep control over you?
Absolutely, you know, and it's funny because I didn't touch on this in our conversation prior to, but over the 8 years, you know, you in a domestic violence situation, there are times when you do get enough gumption to stand up for yourself. You're going to make a change, right? And that did happen a few times, but one of my things is he liked to throw other women in my face. So one day I was like, I'm going to go work at Hooters.
Right.
He said, no, you're not. I said, if you can spend our money there, I can go to work there.
There you
no,
go.
you won't, because I'm not that kind of girl. But I did.
Right.
And, you know, and he started acting right about a year. And then as soon as I quit, same routine again, you know, and it was a lot of times where I did try to leave and I did try to make a stand and make up for myself and appear a strong woman enough to get that respect. And it's exhausting. It
Yeah.
just, every time you have to get it, every time that you do it, it takes even more, and you're pulling from a place you don't have anymore.
Or a
Right.
place
To
you
do
don't even want to pull from. You don't want to go there.
No.
That's so
No.
unfair.
And so it got to where after I'd quit working, which he didn't want me to work, didn't want me to work or go to college. He didn't want men messing with me. So, of course, he got his education, though.
He didn't
Yeah.
want you to have any more power than what you already
Yes,
had.
yes.
Yeah.
And so it had become little things like, oh, my husband's bringing Patron home every day from work. So that was something that was cool. But then I had realized it had gotten to where he wouldn't drink. And he would say, well, you're not drunk enough yet. He would lay down and then come back to see how drunk I was and then tell me if I needed to drink more. And then after that point, then it was like, oh, well, let's do sleeping medication on top of it. And I'm like, but I know now that it's a bad combination.
Yeah.
But back then I was like, that's stupid. Why am I going to get drunk off Patron just to go take a sleeping pill?
Right.
You know? And a lot of that, too, was to try to make me pass out so he could take advantage.
Oh, my gosh.
So after that had stopped and it come to a fell that wasn't working anymore, then methamphetamine was brought into the house.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
No.
And that was a cycle. Let's be just direct and kind of hard about it. They're called carpet pickers. I don't know if you've heard of that terminology or not from people that
Today is a first.
Okay.
But you can explain.
So they say that when people are so strung out, you go looking for crumbs. Basically,
Right.
out
Okay.
of your carpet, wherever you can find it. And that's the part of addiction, which it had me. And to the point to where it was no longer an addiction to me. To me, it was my solution to disappearing.
Right.
So not only was it being given to me from him, but in a way it was helping me commit suicide without actually pulling a gun out. And I had settled to that, and that was something that I had fought with, but it had gotten to where I had actually been flushing it the last couple of months of our marriage, and he didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well,
Because before you get to that, I want to reiterate something you told me when we spoke earlier. So he introduced these things to you all the way up to methamphetamine.
Yes.
And you said earlier he wasn't drinking. It got to the point he wasn't using the methamphetamine either.
Yes.
He was strictly introducing you to you for the purpose of stringing you out.
Yes.
That way he could control you.
Yes.
That's a level of disgusting that.
And and you know what's funny is I tested it out. I tested out that theory. I started to catch on to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had noticed that was linked up a lot with his sexual needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I would get too tired, because he would be like, okay, I'm not going to give it to you no more. It was a way of controlling me.
Right.
And I started to realize that. And so one day I acted like, hey, I really, I'm interested, but I'm too tired to see what he would do. And he had found a stash that had been missing for ages all of a sudden.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Magically.
Wow.
And as soon as I realized that, I was just like, you turd.
Wow.
Once again, I mean, back to your mental fortitude. Like, I don't hear that kind of resolution from many domestic abuse victims.
Yeah.
It's kind of goes a lot darker than that. So I am
It's trippy that you almost, because a lot of women don't recognize what they're in.
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's like you recognized it, but you were trying to find a way to navigate.
Yes.
And survive through
And then
it.
you probably get these feelings of like guilt, like, oh no, that can't be it. Like,
Oh, exactly.
I'm so terrible for even thinking that, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because I naturally want to see the good in everybody.
Oh, I get you. I'm right there with you.
And
Yeah.
so I'd feel like a horrible person thinking these things,
Right.
And it's like, well, am I crazy? Because obviously I'm being gaslighted already.
Yeah.
So it was like, and then he would play tricks too, like hide a drink that I know he brought home just to play with me, to where I would be like, wait a minute, where's my drink? Oh, well, it's where you put it.
Oh,
I
you're
saw you
losing
walk-
your mind.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
had become like
That's
that.
insane.
Yeah.
So,
It's crazy.
wow. So you mentioned that you began flushing this stuff. So he's obviously not watching you
Obviously.
do it. So you start flushing it. When you do that, do you have to like pretend to be high? Like, to be honest with you, I don't know what a methamphetamine high looks like.
So actually, well, you have energy. And even
Okay.
if you stop using and you can do enough just to where you are functioning, a lot of people that deal with addiction with methamphetamine actually kind of use that as a crutch to wean themselves off. But
Right.
it actually backfires a lot because it's just too much of a demon to wrestle like that.
Yeah.
But I would just tell him that my tolerance was built up and it wasn't working like it was.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know, it's just not a good batch.
Right. So you
Right.
begin sobering yourself up,
Yeah.
unbeknownst to him.
Yeah.
Did you start doing that with the intent of leaving?
I had, at that point, making any kind of solid plans was a lot too much for my emotional status and also for my anxiety level. So I just started making plans for things immediately.
Right.
Things that I wouldn't overwhelm myself with processing too much at once and making too many plans at once.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was like sobriety. It's a necessity. I've got to have it if I want to survive, or do I want to die? And at that point, it was like, I've got a kid. My son's autistic. And mom knows. I know I know every little motion and all of his needs without him even saying anything.
Right.
And he needs that mom, and I don't want my kid to be in this situation and not to have nobody to talk to.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
What I asked you this question when we were talking before, and this will kind of link to what you're doing now. What resources do you wish you had at that time that just either you didn't know about or just were not readily available to you?
I mean, honestly, I wish that maybe the teachers would have noticed a little bit more during school. I was blessed to have really good teachers out in Dayton, though. They were all kind of went the extra mile, but I wish they did kind of notice a little bit more. I wish the church life, my church family would have noticed. They didn't. Dad's not coming to church, mom's bringing us. You would have thought that the way that our demeanor was, or staring at the floor and not wanting to make eye contact, things of that nature would have been giveaways.
The signs were there.
Exactly. So as far as education, people need to be educated on it. So I wish they were. And then on top of that, the biggest thing is I wished that I knew somewhere to go or someone had been through it. Or even if they didn't go through it, they could empathize. And I could sense that genuineness, because everywhere I went, there was no genuineness. There was no care. I was just, are you crazy? Are you like, oh, you were abused? Are you seeing orbs? Are you talking to people? These are the kind of things that you get when you're, when you've been through that. And it's like, okay, I'm done with this.
Wow.
Yeah. And those responses can rub off on you. And make no mistake about it, any response like that, if someone comes to you for help and you deflect and you try to find all the reasons why what they're saying is not valid, make no mistake about it, that is victim blaming. Victim blaming is not always pointing the finger and saying this is your fault. You can imply through your actions that it's the fault of the person who's going through it, because if you'd have done something different, well, if you hadn't taken the drugs, well, if you hadn't been drinking, well, if you would have been coming to church every Sunday, those things, like I said, it's not physically saying this is your fault or pointing the finger and saying this is your fault, but it's implied, and it's basically what it amounts to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's victim blaming. And when you're a victim and you're being blamed, you start to believe that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
yeah, go ahead.
You don't want to talk to nobody. It's all your fault. You're the problem.
Right.
So you just go back to your corner and shut up.
Yeah. And how many people do we know that are like, oh, well, I don't like asking for help, or I'm afraid to ask for help. It's a lot of people out there right now, and they're just so afraid of the backlash or what other people are going to think or say about them. And it's so unfair.
Well, and what's sad is it's true.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's too many times that people have tried to get help, and it oftentimes made things worse.
If you need help, ask for it. And if someone asks you for help, don't be a dick.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the case
Empathize.
I think about in the case of Caitlin, who was in episode 16. I mean, she, after years, finally reaches out for help. And unfortunately, most of the people in law enforcement are buddies with her abuser.
Yeah.
So her reaching out for help did nothing, and as a matter of fact, it landed her in jail and possibly losing her own child. And this is a woman who was nearly choked to death in front of her child, and she reached out for help, and it didn't go well. And this is the reason that women don't reach out for help. Statistically, more women are either violently hurt or even unfortunately murdered after they've left, after they've asked for help, after they've brought it to the attention. Because as a society as a whole, we got to work on a better response to that. And I think that's one of the reasons you started the organization that you started. Now, before we jump ahead to there, obviously you're not married to this guy now.
No, I'm not.
So what was the breaking point, and how'd you get out, and where'd you go next?
So the breaking point for that was actually, it was unexpected. I'm glad it happened now. So I woke up one morning, this was after I'm getting myself sober, and I was told from him he was taking my son to a doctor's visit. And I encouraged my son to go. My son was kicking and screaming awkwardly.
And your son is autistic.
Yes, a lot. And I'm like, it's okay, baby, it's okay. You're just going to the doctor. I didn't know that was a day that he had set aside to initiate and start everything to serve me papers. to do my hair follicle test. All that was ordered the same day. My car was voluntarily repossessed that he had. I had no access to funding. I had no family to go to, no credit cards, no cash, no food, no car, no phone. He took my phone that morning as well. And I was stranded out in Cleveland.
So what was he doing?
He hit him? I hate even talking bad about him, even though there was another woman involved, and he had him at her house. And so I had to deal with being freshly sober, with not knowing where my child was, not having food, not having job, not having nowhere to go. Mental.
If there is a
depression was
prime
bad.
time to have a relapse,
I
that
knew
would have
that.
been it.
I knew it.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't. I'm stubborn. I was
Yeah.
like, you're not gonna get that satisfaction.
I don't think I could have done it. Honestly, I don't think I could have.
I didn't think so until you realize how much rage you have inside of you for the things that people do, especially whenever all you're doing is trying to act on love and live your life, And for me, the only thing that got me through was realizing, and I always thought this way, no matter what anybody does to you, you can't control it. But I can control me, and I can control how I process what you did to me.
Preach.
And I refuse to let something some hateful person did to me win.
Right.
I'm not doing it.
Good for you.
So, I mean, for me, that's why I had to. Because if I didn't, they won. And if they win, then what am I doing here? I'm not going to do it.
Yep, you're exactly right.
When you're in a situation where the person who's caused you the most hurt and anguish and pain, we'll call them the bad guy, when it seems like the bad guy's winning, you do have that moment where you stop and you say, this can't be the way this goes.
Yeah.
Like, the universe doesn't work like this. God doesn't
Exactly.
work this way.
Exactly.
There's no way in the world. I've done nothing but tried to be a good person.
Exactly.
Out of the goodness of my heart, loved this person, given up everything. There's no way in the world that this is how this ends.
Exactly.
And that's what keeps you from falling off the deep end. I know that from experience. I've been there.
And I did. I actually, I think I told you I'd try to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And so at that point.
So this was around the time that he had taken your son?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, that was a different time. I tried another attempt. There was a friend of mine who actually had bad social anxiety, major PTSD, and things of that nature. Never left her house. And whenever he did take my son and he did hide him, the funny thing was funny. He had called me, and I was always asked to talk to him. He would never let me talk to him. And he said, well, don't do anything stupid, Minnie. Don't kill yourself.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And I was like... And so that night, like I said, the friend that never leaves her house, never, ever leaves her house, I had made up my mind that day I was going to kill myself. And I was going to walk out in front of, 18-wheeler, had a note written somewhat, I had a permanent marker. I actually wrote my husband's phone number on my arm and put husband, put his name, put my parents and their name, and I was prepared.
Wow.
And I go to walk out the door, and that friend that never leaves her house showed up randomly. And she looked at me, and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
if that isn't...
So I'm not, that's why I say
Man, I got goosebumps.
I know I do too.
Man.
Yeah.
That's why I say I'm blessed in my misfortune,
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a great way to look at it. I mean...
Well, I don't care what your faith is in, if it's universe, if it's positive energy versus negative energy, if it's good versus evil, God versus the devil. Whenever things like that happen, you get this great sense that something bigger than you is taking place.
Yeah, there's like a light shining on you
Man,
out of nowhere.
Good on your friend. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What went through her mind to get her out of her house that day?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
crazy.
I was like, she literally was very, very scared to leave her house. Did not leave her house at
Yes.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he initiates this separation.
Yes.
And I believe you said you didn't have anywhere to go. So you had to go back to live with your family.
Yes.
So you went from one abuser to another
Situation. Yeah.
former abuser.
Yeah. It was pretty
And
still
you were
heavy.
there for quite some time. So what was that environment like?
So it's a very controlling environment. Me and my sister actually came back home at the same time. I came back from my situation, and she came back from her situation with a black eye. Also, pretty.
Wow.
I mean, it's not funny, but it is. You know, two sisters back home, man. We were roughing it together.
Right.
And but my sister was in her 40s, and we had a 10 o'clock curfew on the weekdays. Is very controlling. A lot of walking on eggshells. A couple of different incidences happened at that time as well, and I had ended up back in another abusive relationship. Someone I felt safe with, you know, and knew in high school, and I ended up back in that same situation. And lucky enough, I had a friend that actually works with me now. Her name is Wendy Soliday. She saw the situation and was like, "You're moving in with us." And I was like, "I don't have a job. I don't have money. I don't have a car." And she's like, "Here, we got you a brand new phone. Here's my husband's keys to his vehicle. You can drive his vehicle. You know, whatever you need to do, do it."
Wendy Soliday is going to be a key figure in this story.
Yeah.
You mentioned that she helped you realize that you were in something that you didn't realize you were in.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that was we were talking about?
For that was in an actual current abusive relationship. I
Right.
didn't realize that was abusive. I was so eager to get back into another sense of security after that relationship. And it was somebody I knew from high school. And they're like, "Don't worry about working. Here's my card. Here's my truck, da-da-da-da." And as soon as I started trying to do a little bit more with myself, it was, I'm going to call the cops to come get the truck. I had actually he wanted to discuss something with me, and rather than me discussing it in front of my parents and them seeing, we went to a motel to discuss it. Took my phone and wouldn't let me leave, and actually, assaulted me. And she showed up at the motel to try to help me get out of that situation.
Yeah.
So,
But what you were in, unbeknownst to yourself,
yeah, I didn't.
you were in a cycle.
Exactly.
You kept going
Into the same
You were
stuff.
escaping from one thing to go right into
Exactly.
essentially the same thing.
Exactly.
And
Why does that tend to happen?
So
I hear that a lot with, abuse victims or victims of just about anything. They go into a cycle of whatever their abuse was.
I've come to realize too, I feel like personally through work, what I've seen, women were so eager to find that again, especially coming out of that. And I believe that there are people that are around you that are not good people, and we don't realize it because they're good guys, right? They're good guys, so you feel like you can talk to them. But not all good guys equate to good partner. And they're hearing you vent about all this. And what somebody who's a predator like that, what they hear is what you'll put up with.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And you're given them the playbook.
they're taking
So
inventory.
it's just people just preying on
Yeah, this is people, and this is why, we've had this conversation on this show before. A lot of the mistake a lot of women make is airing their grievances out in public. Now that we have social media, they air their grievances out, and one of the problems with that is by doing that on such a public platform, you're almost advertising to the rest of the douchebags out there
Exactly.
who prey on because they know how easy it is. If they show you just the smallest bit of kindness, that's something you've never experienced before.
Yes, yes.
And all it takes is just a little bit. Oh, he's showing interest in me. And, like you talked about this gentleman who, take my truck. He's offering things, and that's all well and good when you need him. But the moment that there's the slightest chance of any type of independence separate from him, that's when it becomes a problem, and that control factor.
and obviously
leaves.
it's not just women, men and
Yes.
children and
Absolutely.
everybody. Yeah.
But this is why the number one thing that I preach, and which you obviously had to discover, is that the amount of equity that we place on ourselves based on how other people view us versus how you value yourself.
Yeah.
When your self-worth comes from within, from yourself, then it doesn't matter what amount of attention you do or do not get from the outside world.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if someone tells you that you're stupid, someone tells you that you're worthless. Once you've got that within yourself, none of that matters, and you're going to stop attracting those type of people because they recognize it. Men who prey on weak women recognize a woman who they're not going to be able to control.
Yep.
And they will give you the time of day. And good men who are looking for that type of woman, that's when they begin to notice you. Because, Josh, we've had this conversation. If a woman's airing all of her grievances about everything that this and this person, all the things that she's put up with, abuse, cheating. When a woman's out there airing all that in public, any good man is honestly going to be like, yeah, I don't think I want anything to do with that. Because you right. So you know that right, you know that comes with
baggage.
Some baggage that isn't going to have anything to do with you. And so that's a tough lesson to learn in life, and especially it's one you had to teach yourself because you weren't taught what love feels like as a child. You weren't taught what someone who really is caring about you and interested in you. You weren't taught what that looks like. You weren't taught to love yourself. Yeah. You had no reason to love yourself at that point.
Loving yourself was selfish.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so crazy.
And you were a giver. That's what you wanted to be. Exactly. And that's what you were. So this, Wendy Soliday, and we're gonna name off some of the other people that you started Universal Agape Love with, but and when I was asking you these questions and hearing your story, that was a very central figure. I said that she's the hero of this story.
Yes.
Even though she doesn't wear a cape. So you're finally once again, I think we established that your foster home was a loving, nurturing environment. Yeah. Wendy's home was a loving, nurturing environment. But even then, still, you could not escape this cycle that you were in. Yes. And if you want to give us some more details on that.
So I had, my divorce was finalized the month that I had moved in with her out in Crosby. And just a month afterwards, I had reconnected with somebody that I had known since I was 18. Somebody who, they do well for themselves. They seem very independent. A good friend actually helped pull me out of a mud hole about a year prior. And
like a literal mud hole?
Literal.
Okay.
I flooded my Mustang.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I just hit the gas and it got me far, but not far enough. So anyway,
but this was somebody you trusted. You had an established relationship with.
Absolutely. And so it had gotten to where he was such a bachelor. He's like, hey, come over and help clean my house. Or if we don't, then we can do champagne, have pizza. You can clean or not clean, and I'll give you some money.
Netflix and chill, baby.
Right? Right. But I mean, but it was a good friendship. I was like, oh, he's lonely. And then he wasn't my type. So I was like, well, maybe, eventually, whatever. But not about that right now.
You placed him in the friend zone.
Exactly. Totally in the friend zone. Great
Gotcha.
company, good guy. Well, I aired my grievances with him, and I was supposed to go over there one day for the second time and clean the house. And basically, long story short, is I ended up going to sleep, waking up with him on top of me, doing his thing.
Wow.
And so at that time, I ended up getting home back to Wendy and her husband and broke down really hard. And like I said, my divorce was finalized just the month prior to. That battle had finally ended. And
so very momentary peace that you had.
Yes.
So talk about how difficult it was not to just, you finally get out of an abusive marriage. You get out of an abusive relationship after your abusive marriage. Yeah. You're finally in a peaceful place. You trust someone just as a friend. It's not like you jumped into a relationship with this guy. So just talk about how difficult that was mentally to deal with yet another instance of where you were taken advantage of.
I struggled so much because I try to be such a strong individual, and a lot of times that plays against me. And so my mind frame is, okay, this happened to me again. I'm not going to let it dictate who I hang out with. I'm not going to be more paranoid. I'm not going to be this, and I'm not going to be that. I'm going to keep doing me. And that kind of went the opposite direction. It got to where I was trying to prove it too much to myself.
Right.
Oh.
It felt like, which put me in dangerous situations, Yeah. So drinking a lot, I had got to where I was drinking a lot again. And at that time, I'd actually met my now husband, Ben, and emotionally vomited on him our first date about everything.
And he didn't take it as a sign of weakness or prey on you. Wow, that must have been very refreshing.
I got lucky.
For the first time ever,
right?
Somebody heard your story and didn't see it as a way to take advantage.
Well, for me, I was just putting it out there, and I figured either way, my fillers were out. I felt pretty on top of my game when I did it this time, and because I showed up with no makeup on the first date and a throwdown T-shirt, got in his truck, and I was like, I'm not wearing no makeup. This is what I look like, and if you don't like it, you can just open your door back up, and I'll go back in the house.
Yeah, we call that membership the FTBS, the Fuck the Bullshit Club.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
I was like, you're gonna know.
Yeah, get it out there.
Exactly.
And man, I got to tell you, I mean, that was risky. You didn't know Ben was going to be Ben.
No,
that was
I
risky.
didn't. I didn't.
But you said, I mean, at that point, you'd been through some things.
Good Lord.
You probably recognized some red flags at that point. And I think the fact that that Ben didn't try to take advantage as other people had, and he had the patience to deal with some of the things that you were going through, because like you said, you had started drinking.
Yep.
You had started kind of, like you said, trying to prove to yourself that that one incident wasn't going to handicap you.
Yeah.
And maybe took it overboard.
Yeah.
So Ben had to see through all of that to the you that he knows and loves. And that's, I mean, like I said, that's very fortunate. But I think if you look at the pathway of the story that you've told, you mentioned it when we were talking, through all of this horrible stuff, you've been able to stop and see the moments where there was a blessing.
Oh, exactly.
And you had several of them. You know, you had your friend who'd never left her house show up the day you thought you might kill yourself. You know, you had this relationship established with Wendy Soliday. And then you meet Ben, and he just so happens to be the right person to put it all on the line for.
Exactly.
And talk about the difficulty of going through what you went through, because there's a lot of women who think they'll never do it. They'll never be able to have a normal, healthy relationship.
Yeah.
How do you navigate going through everything you've gone through and still nurture and build this relationship?
So I've learned for myself the best thing that I can do, and that's just for anybody, but especially a victim, is being honest with yourself. So honest with yourself. A lot of times you learn behaviors and you learn tics that are not your tics, because you pick them up from your abuser and you don't even realize it. Controlling behavior, it becomes something that you're lulled into. You don't leave the house. You're not allowed to go hang with your friends, so the other partner doesn't do it either. So all of a sudden, when you're in an independent, healthy relationship and he's like, hey, I'm going to go shoot pool with my brother, all of a sudden you're like, oh, so you don't care? Like, what's it about? You know, you don't know how to do it. Luckily for me, I had a really good friend that anytime I came to work in Vintage, she'd be like, girl, you're going to come up here and I don't want to hear about you losing that man. Because that's literally, you know.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
but you know what? That's the unfortunate part. A lot of women who've gone through what you've gone through sabotage good relationships because of everything they've gone through before that.
well, and you're on guard. You're constantly on guard. You are not acting to your partner as if that's your partner. You're acting on them as if they're somebody else, and that's not fair to them.
Right.
So for me and Ben, thankfully, he already had a hobby of himself. You know, he loves to do umpiring as a second job pretty much. And so luckily, blessed for me, I got to realize that, hey, things are not working out like this with us trying to grow together. So I had to use the advantage of his time away and then start making time for myself, which was really hard to learn to do because of the constant urgency to go home and the social anxiety that I was dealing with, and PTSD was also pretty overwhelming. So having to learn how to go outdoors and navigate was really hard for me without a male presence. So I had to learn to build better friends. I built my circle. I built a strong circle of I made up my mind. I was like, we're not going to have no nonsense friends. I want some strong friends. I want women that I admire, is what I decided. I wanted people. So when I changed my people and I changed my circle and I worked on me and I decided to be honest with me about my decisions and my feelings and were they valid?
Right.
You know, because a lot of times they weren't. My feelings weren't valid. A lot of times I got aggravated over things that were past issues that had no place in my relationship.
Right.
And it just takes a lot of time before getting mad or getting upset, asking yourself, if you are in the right for being upset, or if it actually makes sense. Is it actually rational?
Yeah.
Because that's what I literally had to coach myself and break it down and start to look at my patterns and look at my trends and look at me getting upset and everything. Why? And it was because of past issues.
Yeah. And I imagine that once you recognize that, I imagine things for you and Ben probably just took off
Oh yeah.
100-fold.
Oh yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. So,
Yeah.
at what point did you feel like you were in a position where you were ready to help other people who had gone through the things that you were going through?
So I kind of got a taste of it whenever my first job back into the workforce after my divorce, I worked for an assisted living facility. And during there, I'm sorry, but working with the elderly, they have nothing to lose by being honest to you. They do not lie.
Right.
So if you're a piece of crap and they don't want you in their room, they're going to tell you to get the heck out because they
Right.
don't like you. So, I got to be around those kind of people, and I got to get that feel good back and everything again. And once I started gradually working on that part of myself and my self-worth, I could see that being bounced back off on me by the way that the people would look at me and the joy I took and the way the families also loved me. And so at that point I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. I'm getting, and that's whenever Wendy Soliday had an opening at a position. She was a site manager at another organization and was like, come on. So when I went to work there and started helping people, it was constant self-growth, man.
And this organization was
So the one
similar to what you guys are doing
yes,
now.
yes, it's similar.
Helping domestic violence
Yes.
survivors.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so at that point, it was like, hey, let's do more together. Let's make a change. And the first step that I actually did take, which was not this past December, but the December before, I went ahead and pursued that sexual assault case. And while I got that, as soon as I got that breath, I was like, now or never. And I didn't want to do it, didn't feel like I could do it, but I felt like I don't want to be late. I did it for the woman I wanted to become.
Right.
That's such a
And I want to
great
go
way of
backwards.
putting that,
And I want to go
honestly.
backwards just real quick, because when you were assaulted by this former friend of yours, and you went to Wendy, they had you go to a hospital,
Yes.
have a rape kit done.
Yes,
And so the foundation had been laid
exactly.
that this happened.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone, it was
And there were audio recordings from the police station they had
right.
taken on
Okay.
the
But at
spot.
that
So
time,
you had a file. Yeah.
at
And
that
they had my
time,
clothes and everything.
right. But at that time, you chose not to press charges.
Yes, I went ahead and did what I needed to do, and that, like I said, the same mentality at the time was I couldn't do it at the time. I mentally could not. I just was like, I cannot. This never happened. I'd rather pretend this didn't happen. Broken record, you name it. I repeated it a million times before I went to the hospital.
To be honest with you, I found that kind of surprising that with that evidence, that law enforcement couldn't just proceed without you.
So, yeah.
Exactly how does that work?
Exactly. Well, so he told me, man, I think it's sketchy. So let's just be frankly, you're talking about victim blaming.
Right.
So, and I kind of share this openly. There was a picture sent, an inappropriate picture, right? To a guy that I'd known since I was 18.
Right.
So because of that, he turned it to he said, she said. And even though I've got
So because you sent this picture,
yes.
it must have been
doesn't
consensual,
that
right?
debunked your entire
Yes,
case.
Yes. Even though I had messages where I asked for help from my friends at the time to come get me because I
Right.
knew he had guns and it was a really big lockdown house and no way to get out. I had to have him take me home.
So those messages, so that message counted, that debunked your case, but
Yeah.
those other messages counted for nothing.
Well, and then I've got screenshots too where he's talking about what happened and it doesn't even make sense. He knew I had PTSD and my nightmares would be so bad that I would kick and scream. And he didn't know I was awake he didn't know that I'd woke up. And so on the way, I just told him that I had a stomach ache.
So he admitted in a text message.
No, he didn't admit it in a text message. It was the story wasn't lining up. And he said that I'd kicked my thong off. I said, I'm sorry, but how exactly that's a stripper move. I'm not getting paid
Right.
for. Like,
Hold on, I'm trying to
It
figure
was
out
just
how I could
outrageous. It
possibly
was
do
just
that.
outrageous.
exactly.
Claims.
Exactly.
I'm not a contortionist.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well,
We've,
not only
as a society, law enforcement, people, and I know it's I know it's a touchy thing, man, because
Oh.
I know that there's women who make up stories about things like this,
Well,
and it's so difficult because I feel like you should take any accusation seriously,
Yes.
and while still respecting innocent while proven guilty.
That's
but I
right.
feel like this law enforcement agency that you were dealing with, they had
Harris County.
Harris County had more than enough, at least to make an arrest without you being involved.
So the funny thing was, I forgot to mention that there was a girl that night that was a money girl. She uses men. She has a fake GoFundMe for all kinds of stuff. So anyways, I never met her before, but she was there that night. I had talked to her at the hospital trying to get an address, and she knew something was up. It was awkward. And then she kind of befriended me until I told her what happened. And then when I told her what happened, she started negotiating a price for me to shut up with him. And I do have screenshots of her saying he will contact you with a lawyer. This girl's on probation,
Wow.
rap sheet. And they didn't even call her in to talk to her.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And I've been asking them and following up. They're actually ignoring my phone calls. No one's answering my phone calls or nothing.
Yeah.
They're not.
So I
doing
forgot to
nothing.
mention, this is still an ongoing case, correct?
Yes.
This case is still open in Harris County.
Yep.
What precinct?
I don't. Harris County. I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind.
I'm just gonna do
if
what
we,
my mama told me, and I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
I mean,
And I'm
if you,
not.
Josh, you remember Caitlin's episode?
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
similar circumstances.
Very, very similar,
Yeah.
and it's like you said, it's very tragic that these cases they don't get the attention or the resources that they need
Until the woman's dead.
until the woman's dead or worse, multiple women are dead.
Well, the thing is I know the guy does it more than once. Let me tell you. So he's got a setup in spring. He's got a saltwater aquarium for everyone to come look at.
Oh yeah, that's a draw. That would totally be a draw for me.
Oh yeah,
you know?
me too. I love the fish. Me
too.
So I mean, I'm a kid like that, but a full bar and everything. And so he lets the girls come to crash. All the girls that want to come crash there. He was even bragging that night that one of his friend's daughter's friends that just graduated were going to be coming over there for the July weekend and hanging out.
That's weird.
So the way that it happened,
Very creepy.
I'm like,
Creepy.
this isn't. He was way too quick to throw out a bribe, way too quick to be careful on not communicating with me. And
He had experience
yes, he knows what he's doing.
doing this before.
Yeah. And I told the police officers that too. But
Wow.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I feel like this needs to be on Netflix.
well,
That's
what's sad is it's already on Netflix multiple times.
There's a
For
multiple
real.
situations.
billion stories
For
like
real.
this.
I'm sorry.
Why is this normalized? Why is this normal?
I hate to say it because I feel like I'm going to be devil's advocate. A lot of it also is women that cry wolf that are hurt, and I'm pretty aggravated about it. That
Yes.
cry wolf. That I'm sorry, but they should face the same consequences that somebody that would be charged for assault.
I agree with that
I
100%.
completely agree.
Because then it ruins people like me. So
Yep.
they look at me and they're like, oh, you're a blonde and you this and that and you look a certain way and you're a money grubbing, you know what. Oh, and
Right.
I also had messages where the dude was offering me a car, was offering me all this stuff. And I was
Right.
like, no, I'll come clean your house. But yet I'm using him for
like,
money.
are those not red flags
But
to
they're-
the authorities?
They're telling me though that this was my objective to get at him.
Right.
But yet I have messages where I'm telling
Like you
no,
could have
thank you.
taken advantage of all
Yes, he wanted to move me and my son in and everything.
that. Yeah.
Like,
If you wanted money, he was offering it to
Yes.
you. If you wanted things, he was offering it to you.
yes, and I was like, let me come clean your house instead. But,
Yeah.
makes no sense.
Man. That's a,
I just noticed Naomi took off her glasses because she got so serious about it.
no, but last week we were talking about problems and issues
Yeah.
in the country that are perceived problems, perceived issues versus the real issues. These are real issues, whether or not Pepe Le Pew is in Space Jam is not a real issue.
Yeah.
These are real conversations that we really got to have. How are we going? And you hit the nail on the head. It is because there's a lot of women who cry wolf. And our judicial system is supposed to be it's supposed to be innocent before proven guilty. But the problem is that everything's so public now. what happens is whatever you've been deemed in the court of public opinion sticks to you.
Yep.
And take it from me, I know this from someone who was accused of doing something that he didn't do.
Yeah.
It sticks. People don't
It's
pay attention to the fact that
No.
that case got thrown out
Yeah.
because the
didn't
evidence
matter.
was bogus.
I've got another friend from high school, and he went to jail for 2 years for statutory rape.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a good relationship until he wanted to break up with her. She was a good friend of mine also. They were both mutual friends.
Yeah.
And she got pissed off. And she ratted him out to the police. And he couldn't do shit about it. It was
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
her word versus his.
Yeah.
They had a fine relationship until one of them got mad, the
Yeah.
younger.
I think
just-
that's where
it pisses me
you
off.
have to leave bias out. You look at Minnie's situation. She had a rape kit done. She had all this circumstantial evidence. She had
And Wendy was there when he dropped me off.
right.
Why isn't this given more?
So that's a good question to ask Harris County. If I were an investigative reporter, those
But
are the questions I would have.
It's like we go back to it again. It's not just Harris County. This
Yeah.
is a
It's
pandemic.
Oh.
If we want to say
Worldwide.
pandemic,
It's
this is
global,
worldwide.
Yeah.
This is epidemic that goes on daily. I guarantee you right now somebody's in this situation as we talk,
Well,
and there's
I feel like a lot
nothing
of
they can
people,
do.
I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people they don't care about it because it's not their problem. But it's not their problem until it's their daughter,
Right.
or
Oh, yeah,
until
absolutely.
it's their
Ain't that the
sister
truth?
or their
Yeah.
mother. I mean, it's easy for people to turn a blind eye to these things or not to feel really.
honestly,
passionate about
that's
it.
most things, right? You know,
Yes.
you see people
Absolutely.
advocating for things, asking for donations. Like, I mean, here we are talking about Universal Agape
Yeah.
Love, and there may be somebody who, up to this point, has not been affected by any of this.
Yeah.
But heaven forbid, 2-3 years down the line, like you said, it's their daughter, it's their sister, their mother. All of a sudden, it's something that touches them, and they're like, "Oh man, maybe I could have done more."
Yeah.
I hope that nobody ever ends up in that situation. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Universal Agape Love because you guys are trying to provide a resource that the women we're talking about right now don't have. Somewhere where they can go and be taken seriously, be taken in, given someone to talk to, given the resources to be able to leave if they're in a violent or dangerous situation. That's what you didn't have, that you wish you would have had, and you
Yes.
said, I'm going to provide this
That's
for
right.
women now. So give us a little bit of detail on what you guys do now and what you plan on doing in the future.
So right now we have a counseling center. We have a couple of counselors that are working with us and working with our clients. They do all kinds of therapy. We even have a counselor, our CEO, she does some pastoral counseling as well for those that want to have something with a little bit more of the faith touch. We actually have a thrift store as well. The thrift store, right? Woo. So
And the
all-
thrift store is open to everyone?
Yes.
oh, that's
It
I'm
is.
there.
And they're like swimwear.
Right.
So
And
yeah,
all those proceeds go back
into
to...
funding for the services that we provide for the community. We do food drives out in the community as well. We do referral services. So if we can't help you, we will try our darndest to find someone who can. We will find somewhere to send you. We'll find a way to get you what you need. Then we also are coming up with vocational classes. We'll have somebody to teach phlebotomy. We have a chef to come on to give certificates for cooking and things of that nature.
Excellent.
We also have legal advocacy. So we have somebody there, Miss Wendy Soliday, actually. She goes with the victims to court if they need that emotional support. She helps navigate them to understand the judicial system, things that may be unjust, may be ways that we can finagle, find a better route.
That is so important.
Yes, it is.
That
Because
is so important
the
because...
justice system is not victim friendly at all.
Yeah, and there's loopholes. There's, in the legal system, if you don't cross every T and dot every I, one little misstep or oversight can throw an entire thing out the window.
It's one of my favorite sayings is what you don't know, you don't know.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You don't even know if it's
Until
a
you don't know, you
thing.
don't know it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And until you're already taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
And in
oh,
situations
well,
like this, it's not what you know; it's what you can prove in court.
That's right.
And that's the misfortune of it. And that's why you read the statistics. Overwhelmingly, more people get away with sexual assault or rape than are actually caught and punished for it.
Yeah.
And that's got to change. And I wish I could sit here and tell everybody I have the solution. This is what you should do. Because you do want to take every accusation seriously, like I said, while still maintaining innocent until proven guilty. But the ones where it's right in front of your face, the ones like this, the ones where people turn a blind eye purposely, those are the ones that get me. If it's a situation where there's no physical evidence and the circumstantial evidence is cloudy, you want to have sympathy for that young man or young woman, whoever was the victim, and try to help them navigate through that. But for the ones where justice can be achieved and the people who are supposed to be protecting and serving us are just turning a blind eye to it, that's the one that irks me.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, like you said, there's too many stories where that's happened.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Well, and
So the
especially-
legal advice that you guys are offering, that's
Yeah.
invaluable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, especially whenever you are a victim, somebody who finally decides to speak up, it's really hard for me as being a founder whenever I've gone through what I've gone through in this specific case specifically, and they are an assault victim and they come and they're like, what do? I want to get justice. I can't look at them very well and say you're going to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially not.
That would
but
really be unfair of you to
it's-
tell them that.
Right. I mean, so I do got to say, but I'm glad though that everything happens for a reason. So if I don't get the justice for it, I've at least said my piece. So if somebody comes and they're like, well, am I going to get it? No, you may not, but at least you'll do it for you and it's out of the way. And you've done that for you.
Yes.
And I never had done anything for myself until that case.
Yeah.
So I decided to do it, and that's what happened. And I knew it going in, and is what it is, but I'll keep fighting. So
Okay. So Universal Agape Love is the name of the organization. I want to shout out your co-founders. We've got Stephanie Montgomery, Wendy Soliday, and Marina Jones.
That's right.
So it's the four of you. And you guys had your first annual fundraiser event, which was a night of fine dining, dancing, entertainment. And I believe you guys charged $100 a ticket.
Yes.
And that, all of that money was to raise money for the services
That's right.
that you guys talked about. And hopefully that event will keep growing. You don't know when you're going to do it again this year, but the plan is to do it annually. And it's in Dayton, which we just discovered you can get from Deer Park or Dayton to Deer Park in about 22 minutes. So it's not that big of a drive.
No, Dayton, Baytown.
Oh, you were in Baytown. I thought you were in Dayton when you came here.
No, I
There
was
was no
in
way you got
Baytown.
from Dayton to here in 20 minutes.
That's what I was going to say. Like, how fast were you driving?
She
So
took,
you got
she
from,
took her private jet here, Nick. That's what
Okay.
she did.
I thought you were in Dayton when you
had a
came here.
rocket
So it was
launcher.
like 22 minutes. That's impressive.
And y'all, I'm following Universal Agape Love on Facebook right now. Look them up on Facebook, and so that you can keep in touch with their future fundraisers, their thrift shop, anything that you can do to help out this organization, and it
sure.
would be much appreciated.
For sure. And if you want to put your money where your mouth is, they'll take your money. I just wanted to throw out their PayPal account is at universalagapelove.org. Or if you want to Venmo, it's at VAL. Is it dash nonprofit or just
UAL.
I'm sorry, U. That makes more sense.
He can't read his handwriting.
UAL. Yeah, I can't. Nonprofit. Or Cash App is $UAL nonprofit. And it's one of those places where whenever we're trying to do something to raise money to help people, if you know it's going somewhere local and you can trace where it's going and you can see the results of what's happening, because a lot of places will say, hey, send us money, and you don't know where it's going. Yeah. Well, I think you guys are doing a great job of being transparent about what you guys are doing with your funds. And I know in the future you guys are hoping to open up an actual, I don't want to call it a shelter, but a living space.
Yes. We want to do transitional living. One of the main things that I'm, obviously for personal reasons, I'm really hoping that we get a place for some of the children that have aged out of foster care. And the goal for that is we're going to be networking with a bank we've already spoke to help with credit. So they can learn how to maintain their credit, balance a checkbook.
They should teach that in regular school.
Yes, we want to.
Good luck.
Yeah.
The whole thing is to have a holistic approach with them and really help as much as we can with those kids, because from what I understand, I believe there's over 50,000 homeless children in Houston.
Yeah. Financial independence is the power.
That's right.
How many women would absolutely leave their situation if they knew they could secure
That's right.
the financial independence?
Absolutely.
it's such a big thing. I talked to since speaking to Caitlin, I've spoken to many women who have similar stories to yours. And then one of the biggest reasons they said that they couldn't leave is because they didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
They didn't have any money. They knew they'd end up right back.
Yeah.
And so to teach financial independency, financial literacy, to teach, give them legal advice. I mean, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
And I think you guys, the fact that you're offering that, we wish you nothing but the best. We hope it continues to grow. I don't know if you remember this, but this was about a year ago. I contacted you about someone who had heard Caitlin's episode and reached out to me unexpectedly, and they needed somewhere to go. They needed a way out. And I called you, and I got a couple of different resources from you at the time. And I don't know how much the information I gave her helped, but I still follow her story about a year later, and she's doing very well.
Good.
And it's possible. It's the same thing we said at the end of Caitlin's episode, because I didn't understand when I first talked to Caitlin. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of experiences. I didn't understand. And a lot of people who aren't familiar with this, we asked the same question. Well, why didn't you just leave?
Yeah.
Why didn't you just leave? Yeah. Just get up and leave. I didn't really understand that the reason you don't leave more times than not is up here.
Yeah.
Because I told Caitlin, I said, well, the day you did leave, all those reasons that you said you couldn't leave, they still existed. But at that point, you decided, I'm going to do what I formerly felt was impossible. Yeah. And I'm just going to go.
It's a mind shift.
It lets you know that what you thought was impossible is not impossible. So that's the message that I hope, once again, that anybody listening to this gets. If you're in that situation, get out. There are resources available.
No person is worth putting yourself through that.
Absolutely not.
No person.
Absolutely not. Minnie, is there any direct contact that people can get to you? I don't want to throw out any of your personal information, but I don't know if you keep a business line or a business email.
So yeah, I have a business email. If anybody would like to email me, it's at mwood@universalagape.com.
Okay.
And she's taking donations.
Wait, .org.
.org. Is it a .org? Okay, so it's mwood@universalagapelove.org?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that's a hard phone call to make, I imagine, or a hard email to send. Yeah. But that's the first step, is reaching out.
One small step.
And asking for help. Yeah. And, Minnie, I applaud you and your friends for trying to give these women a resource and a place to go. And it's a beautiful thing, and I wish you guys the best. And I'm glad we met. I'm glad that our connections intertwined and brought us to this place. And
yes, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love the stories that have a positive ending. And I sit here and I look at you, and I told you when we were talking on the phone, you were supposed to be a statistic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to be in a healthy relationship, working, making a living, sober. Yeah. That wasn't supposed to be your path, but you're an example to all those people going through these things of what is possible.
You just got to keep trying. You just don't give up. You got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and if it becomes too much, just do one step at a time. Make those goals small. Little goal. Do what you can.
Honestly, a support system.
Oh yeah.
Is important. If if anybody's listening and they have a loved one that they've separated from because they felt like they couldn't deal with the things that they were going through, you are the key to helping them get out of that. And I know it's taxing emotionally. I know it's taxing sometimes monetarily, financially. But having a support system is a huge factor.
Yes, and if
being
you
able to come
have a neighbor, or have a family member, or you're a teacher and you have a student, you don't need. All it takes is just one question, like, "Are you okay? Mm-hmm. Is there anything you need help with?" And just start there. Yeah. Don't think so far in the future and freak yourself out. And don't worry about all that stuff. Just ask them. Check in with your people.
Yeah.
And take it a step further and listen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
You don't have to be that first thing to ask the question. Yeah. Listen to people. Like you said, they kind of drop hints and stuff like that for people to pick up on
as much as they can. Yeah.
As much as they can.
Sure.
Even hear these stories of I think there was a lady a couple years back when she was ordering a pizza, and she had called the pizza place, and it was actually the police, and she was describing having to order a pizza to get out of the home.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I say that, like I said, listen to when people talk. Don't be that friend that's like, oh well, it happened or something like that. Listen to your friends, listen to your family, listen to what's going on, and be that friend. Be that Wendy.
Yeah, for sure.
And take action.
Yeah, because Minnie, like you said, some people feel like, oh, that's not my business.
Yeah.
It's not my problem. Like the difference between you speaking up and saying something or doing something, it's a life and death situation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, I'm glad we can share your story, and I hope that it inspires other people to make some changes or to maybe keep fighting, and maybe it inspires someone who knows someone who's in a similar situation who'd given up on them. Like, be that support system.
Yeah.
Because this is what can happen when you have that.
Yeah.
And and it's up to, you had to take a certain amount of control over your life as well. But to those who are struggling to do that, it is possible. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope something positive for anyone who listens comes from it. Even if it's just, hey, a sobering thought of this is what's going on in the world and I need to be more aware of it. I'll tell you what, let's get an ad really quick for Myriad Mobile. And while that's running, we'll discuss what we want to do on our specialty segment. Ooh. Hey guys, it's Nick Stevenson again, here to tell you about my friend Brian Wells and his mobile welding and mobile mechanic service, Myriad Mobile. Brian has been welding for over 20 years, and he will let his work speak for itself. Welding repairs, whether they're industrial or residential, wrought iron fencing, he can repair that old rusty fence and repaint it, or he'll even build you a new one. Oh, and in case you missed it, that's right. I also said that Brian offers mobile mechanic services. You need a part changed, your brakes or your oil change? Why not do it from the comfort of your own home? Myriad Mobile will come to you. So whether it's an industrial or residential welding repair, or you need a new fence, or you don't want to drive or have your car towed to the mechanic shop, then call my friend Brian Wells at Myriad Mobile. The number to call is 713-538-6938. That's 713-538-6938. Myriad Mobile, welding and car repair. Tell them that Nick from the Smells Like Middle-Aged Spirit podcast sent you. Alrighty. You guys give Brian Wells at Myriad Mobile Welding and Car Repair a call for all of your welding and car repair needs. And he will go anywhere in the city of Houston. Josh, you asked a very good question that I forgot to ask. Good catch there, buddy. You asked Minnie,
that's why I'm here.
Where did you guys get the name Universal Agape Love? And I grew up in church, so I kind of knew what that meant, but other people may not understand. So
Yeah.
where did you guys get the name from?
Agape is actually a term used in the Bible, which is like a transcending love, just unconditional, boundless love. And that's really what we try to convey to people. And that's what we try to instill in our organization is just a endless love, support. And that's where we got our name from, was from her father actually was a minister, and Universal Agape Love was something he really loved, and she wanted it, and that's just our motto, is just to unconditionally love everybody and show support. And so I was like, Agape, I love that.
Yeah.
So we all,
I love it.
Beautiful. Cool. Yeah. So that is that's what you guys are all about. It's that love that you give to everybody, even a complete stranger. You recognize it's the human. You love someone for their humanity.
That's right.
And that's a beautiful thing. So as far as the specialty segment, we kind of struggled with this one because I told you what some of our specialty segments were.
And none of them really kind of fit.
Yeah, because we didn't
Respectfully,
we didn't want to do dad jokes. We don't have a hype gorilla rant anymore. Chris Kahn wasn't here for conspiracies. We just did spit talking with Poet Lady Key last week. Oftentimes we'll just spin a wheel and talk. I like to help people get to know, because we got to know like your story and the struggles that you went through. But I'm sure that you've not allowed that, what you went through as far as abuse, to define who you are. I'm sure Minnie has some personality, some qualities aside from the things that she's gone through.
I'm very animated.
Have you ever sung karaoke before?
Y'all are killing me.
did you? Are you?
That's a
prepared
big
this time?
ask. That's a big ask. Like, we're strangers. We haven't given you a drink of any kind.
Wow, Nick, you gonna make that joke right now?
She told me she still drinks socially on occasion.
Okay.
When she was forced to sing karaoke.
Yeah.
Obviously.
We're not gonna force you to sing karaoke.
Did you not just miss the
me
whole
bring-
discussion we just had, Nick?
Let me bring out the tiny wheel. What's on the tiny wheel?
The tiny wheel.
The tiny
I like
wheel.
the tiny wheel.
You want to go ahead and Bluetooth it over here so it makes that tick? Or no?
Sure. I think a lot of these we've already done,
That's sad.
but that's okay because Minnie wasn't here for it.
Great.
Let's see.
You know what?
You know what? I got.
Next time, one of these episodes coming up. We got a couple more for this season.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna do a specific one. You know how they have the car karaoke? We're gonna do the same thing. It's just gonna be a whole
Okay.
episode
I like that
of
idea.
karaoke.
I like that idea.
And the first person is gonna do it, Naomi. Did you hear that? I said Naomi. I nailed it. First time
okay,
this
I got a
episode-
question for you. We've debated this a few times. What do you think the best decade in music was?
Oh my God, Nick.
I've got the next question. So
Okay, cool,
Oh
cool.
my God, that's so hard though, because like in rap, I would say
Ooh.
like
see what she starts off with.
early
Start off-
90s.
Nick's already like, yes. my
Wait,
people.
we say early 90s or late 90s?
Oh wait, no.
Late 90s, early 2000s?
No, not early 2000s.
No.
I would say mid 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, about
Till late
there.
90s? For
Yeah,
hip hop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other genres of music do you like?
Like old school country. I've got a plethora of music.
Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
country,
Yes.
country. I can't listen to any country past 1998.
Okay, so like I like Marty Robbins, Johnny Cash, Patsy.
Mm-hmm. Maybe some
Cline.
early 2000s, but depends on who it is.
2004 gets really fuzzy.
Yeah, it stopped
Oh yeah,
being
that was
country.
horrible.
It stopped being country. I like Johnny Cash. I like old
I love
school
how
George
he-
Strait.
He
Hank Williams.
Johnny Cash transcends genres. Like I think of Johnny Cash, I think of rockabilly. Like
He
Yeah.
literally
My
covered
dog's
9
name
Inch
is Johnny
Nails.
Cash.
Exactly.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
And
which
they
my
gave him the
husband
song.
thought
Yeah.
it was a Johnny Cash song, and I'm like, hell no, that was 9 Inch Nails he was singing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's actually an interview with Trent Windsor that's actually said
Oh, yeah.
that he actually likes Johnny Cash's version over
Oh
his
yeah,
own.
I've
Yeah.
seen it. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, I when it comes to country
True
music,
artists.
Yeah.
I try not to be that old head who's like back in my day, but
But you do.
man, I couldn't even tell you a country artist right now, like anybody.
There's
I
a
couldn't
couple
tell
of
you
good
who
ones
they
out
are.
right now.
I know like a couple because I saw a commercial last night. It was naming off.
They're
some
singing.
country
They're
people.
singing
I don't
pop
know if
music
I'm allowed
with
to
a
say who
with
I
a southern
like in some
accent.
current country music.
You don't know if you're allowed.
You can say whatever you
I
want.
like. I love Morgan Wallen.
Yes.
I've never heard.
I
I've never.
love Morgan
I don't-
Wallen.
I've never
Yeah.
heard a single one of his songs.
I don't
Good.
know.
He's
Good
got
stuff.
some pretty
Oh, it's a
sexy
he?
songs.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah, that's the guy who got in trouble for using a racial slur.
Yeah.
Not that long ago.
I wouldn't know. I
It
don't know
wasn't-
anything
it
about
was-
country.
it was a
TMZ
slight
said
racial
180
slur.
days ago.
He said it. He said
There's
the
no
word that every rapper has said since the
There's
beginning.
no such thing as a slight racial slur.
Well, they said that he didn't.
Maybe.
It wasn't in that context. They said it
See?
was.
That's
like,
a whole nother. That's a whole nother.
They said it was
episode.
in a bro way.
See,
I'm not gonna touch.
but you're
that.
talking to somebody who thinks that word needs to
Yeah.
disappear forever.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're talking to somebody who believes that word
Yeah.
needs to disappear for everybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's
What's
that's
the
the,
word we're
only
gonna
reason I've
replace
never
it
heard a
with?
single one of his songs. Ironically, the first time I listened to his song was when that came out because I was like, okay, let me
Check it out.
check it out. Let me hear. And I think his downloads like went crazy after that.
It was a media stunt.
Because he was in the news. Yeah, it's like Dr.
worked.
Seuss. Dr. Seuss is like, hey, nobody's
Oh
talked
my
about us in a
God,
while.
Nick, really?
Nobody's talked about us in a while. Let's
This is the
cancel
third
some books.
episode in
What
a
about
row
my
that
Green
you
Eggs
have
and
said
Ham?
Dr. Seuss.
No, I just said
You
Dr.
are so hurt
I
with
said
that.
Dr. Seuss a lot in the last
You are
episode.
so hurt.
I'm
by
saying that was a ploy.
No,
Dr. Seuss
Nick.
was like, hey, when's the last time anybody talked about Dr. Seuss? Dr. Seuss said, hey, you know what we should do? We have some pretty racially insensitive things in some of these old books. Let's
As-
cancel them.
as the
And that's
producer
going
of
to
the
make
show-
people go nuts. And it did.
You know, Dr. Seuss is dead.
People
right?
started. people-
As the
I'm talking
producer
about
of
the
this show,
production.
We're no longer bringing up Dr. Seuss.
No, look,
This is the
because
no
all of
Dr.
a
Seuss
sudden,
zone.
people were buying Green Eggs and Ham again. They were buying The Cat in the Hat. They were buying up all the Dr. Seuss books.
It's all about one fish, two
Nobody-
fish, red fish, blue fish. Everybody knows
Okay.
this.
No, it's
And
where the places you will go.
But the controversy is what I think they did that on purpose. They're like, hey, let's stir some shit up. Nobody's talked about Dr. Seuss since that awful Cat in the Hat movie that Mike Myers was in.
Hey, that's a good movie.
That movie was terrible.
That movie is. I like it.
Okay.
Josh,
you know-
you
So,
would like
so you're a
that.
little bit
Do
of a
you know
hip hop fan.
That
okay.
movie is the exact same reason
And a rock
why they
fan.
will not do any more live action Disney movie or Dr. Seuss movies.
Yeah, it was
That-
terrible.
Yeah,
It's awful.
His family hated it so much that they're no longer do live action.
It was
Dr. Seuss
bad.
movies.
Dr.
So-
Seuss's family hated it so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, it was bad. So
like
in
it.
hip hop, this is a question that we've discussed. Like, give us your top 5 of all time.
Top 5.
Your top 5.
Let me go ahead and give you one hint. If you turn around, look over your right hand shoulder, that should probably be in
Oh
your
yeah,
top.
I
Bonus
love
points.
Tupac, but I mean like Biggie, of course.
Oh my God.
I mean, those are like my
I
old
like
school
Biggie.
ones.
Yeah.
Like
You just became Nick's best
I
friend.
just want to like give him a
Biggie's
hug.
number 1 to me.
it's kind of
I know his
past that right now.
I know
because
his
I've been
catalog.
listening to him so much.
I know his catalog is not big, but that's not his fault. But
No.
the
No
impact-
pun intended.
He literally, he literally made
Boom.
2 albums and like
Like, you know.
He made more than 2 albums.
he made 2 albums.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get a fact check over here.
I mean, he's
keep-
got some.
Talks amongst yourself.
He's got some mixtapes and some underground stuff, but he made 2 albums.
Yeah.
But still,
EPs.
so okay, you got Biggie, Tupac. I
Extended
think that's
plays.
obvious. That's probably
Yeah.
those 2 names usually are at least in everybody's top 10. Who else you got?
So it's kind of, I like Gucci Mane.
Okay. I definitely would not put him in the top.
I know, but I like him. He's got,
I
There's a-
wouldn't even
okay.
expect the Gucci
Okay,
Mane to
time out.
come
Now,
out of your
Gucci
mouth.
Mane. No, time out. Gucci Mane has good music. I wouldn't qualify
He's
him
got
as like
some rhythm. I like
an
rhythm.
MC.
I
right.
I like a lot of trap.
Oh,
So,
yeah, same.
Right.
yeah.
So hip hop, that's the thing. I was talking to my son about this. The real stars of hip hop these days are the producers who make the beats.
Oh yeah, it's the beat.
Because there's not a whole lot of people who
I mean, the
are
lyrics are
lyrically
crap anyway.
right.
You
There's
can
not a
only
lot of
say bitches and hoes and rims so many times until it
right.
becomes
There's not a lot of
Yeah.
people who are that lyrically gifted
I am
in hip hop
all
anymore.
about the beats. Sit in my car
Same.
with my surround
Okay.
sound.
Love
Sit
it.
in my car, my little happy.
So Gucci
quiet
Mane is good for
space.
that. That's
Oh,
a good.
yeah.
Okay, who else you got?
Well then I'll switch to rock. It's like I kind of navigate
Okay.
between them.
Yeah, me too.
No,
Me too.
I really love In This Moment. The
Oh,
rock.
Okay,
You're gonna
okay.
love my wife. My wife absolutely loves them.
I have
I've
a
never
pic-
heard
I have
of
a
them.
picture with her. I met her in VIP. I paid for it myself. I was like, Ben, we're going.
There's 2 people.
Yeah.
There's she wants to meet her, and the other one was Kevin Gates, and we met him
Oh yeah,
a
I love
couple years
Kevin
ago.
Gates too. Yeah.
Okay.
He's pretty good.
I've never heard of In This Moment. I'll have to check them out.
She's
Ooh.
good. She's hot.
Yeah.
Is it it's a band?
It's a band.
Okay, and
It's
she's
and she actually did she win a Grammy?
I
Or
think
she
she
was
did.
nominated for a Grammy.
Okay. I'm always like to be introduced to
Fact
new
check.
music, so that's good.
She does a lot of who did she just work with? Papa Roach. She has a song called
Yep.
Kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope's very
with
good.
Papa Roach.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a rock group.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a rock
Okay.
group. She's very
Papa
activist.
Roach. That brings back memories.
She's like kind of like an activist for women.
Okay.
She actually has a background story as well.
Which is cool. Like
yeah.
I'm down with that.
So am I.
Yeah, she
I'm
was
down with that.
nominated for her first Grammy in November 2020 for best, and she's actually considered metal
Yeah.
performance
Oh, okay.
category.
Yes.
So, like, actually, whenever I was going through the thick of my stuff, I listened to a lot of her, and actually, it made
Okay.
my ex-husband mad.
Really?
Like,
Because it was
yes.
too empowering.
It was.
Oh yeah.
It
Yeah.
was.
You
He
can't
was
be
like,
listening to
no.
these empowering
He
Yeah.
was
women.
like, why are you listening to her again?
Why are you listening to Beyonce?
She's
Yeah.
a
I
metal
gotcha.
singer, and she's an independent woman and the frontman or a front woman for a metal band. Like, how much
Yeah.
more?
I dig it.
That's badass.
She's
Yeah.
awesome.
I dig it. Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna listen to it.
And she
good.
goes to House of Blues too.
Okay. So I'm gonna let's see. I think so. What we've gathered about Minnie is she's a old school hip hop rock loving, just having a good time.
I hear,
Yeah.
I
That's
hear
what it's
music
about.
lover. That's what I hear.
I just
Yeah.
love all kinds of music.
That's-
I'm always
that's good.
surfing for new music.
Yep, that's
That's
me
good.
too.
Does
not country.
Ben like any music that you think he might be embarrassed of you to tell me?
Justin Timberlake.
I like Justin Timberlake.
He loves Man in the Mirror. Oh, he does sing that song. Oh, he's gonna kill me.
Yeah, he would totally. I'm not gonna bring this up at work. Like this will
Okay,
just be me and his
so
little
you know
secret.
you know that song Slow Hand? Dripping down
gotta
that
have it.
dirty laundry. Mm-mm. Dun, 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 dun,
I don't know. Why don't we call him? He can sing it for us.
It's
Yeah,
called
let's just-
Slow
Slow
Hands.
hands.
Dripping my
Something-
dirty laundry.
I only know slow
Okay.
hands. I don't
Anyways,
remember
he
that.
literally
Nothing that
sings
you could
it.
tell me. I'm not. He shouldn't be embarrassed because what you like is what you like. I grew
Oh,
up.
yeah.
I grew up listening to NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys and I listened to
Bye, bye.
Barbie Girl. Like I ain't give. I listened to what I wanted to listen to, and like I got
how did I not shout out to Shine Down? That's our go-to concert.
Shine Down.
culture.
Okay,
Down.
But-
I dig them.
But Ben doesn't
Scout
alter
bar.
his playlist
Right.
for the past 5 years. He's not
So
really.
you think
altered his
he'd be
playlist.
embarrassed? You think he'd be embarrassed if I knew he liked JT? Because me and my wife went to go see JT in
Who
concert.
doesn't like JT?
So it's literally like The Man in the Mirror. That's one of his.
From
his
Michael
playlists.
Jackson?
No, Justin Timberlake does
Mirrors.
a rendition.
Oh,
Mirrors. That's what
Okay.
it was. Mirrors.
Yeah. Very good song.
Yeah.
No,
So-
no. And that concert was awesome.
I
Like, we
think
went to the
Justin
concert.
Timberlake's best years are everything post NSYNC. Because he was
Absolutely.
Oh,
he was
yeah.
able to write what he wanted, to produce what he wanted, and he was actually himself instead of being
Well, he
a
grew
cookie
up.
cutter and
Right.
a
Yeah.
little thing.
I agree with
Basic.
that. I think he also owes a lot of his success to Timbaland and the Neptunes.
I agree with that.
Because
That
Justin
first
Timberlake,
album?
Justin
Yes.
Timberlake was not the most talented member of NSYNC.
No.
He was the most popular.
He had the curliest hair though.
Curliest hair, looked like
Look like ramen
looked like
noodles.
ramen noodles.
And you have no hair.
No, but I mean, to be honest with you,
There was some
that's a whole
glorious
other
ramen
debate.
noodles though, man.
Man, I
Like
need some
Justin
now.
Timberlake would not be
I'm
the
hungry.
Justin Timberlake we know
Yeah.
without Timbaland and the Neptunes.
That first album, that was it Crimea Rivers on.
Yes.
If Timberland did not produce that, it may have been
Yeah,
something.
and the Neptunes were big on there too.
Yeah.
For real. But yeah, I don't think he should be in Ben. Now I know that there's other people who would give him shit about that. I'm not one of those guys. Me and Ben could probably hang out and he didn't even know it. Like we'd be cool.
Oh yeah,
We
he's
could shoot pool.
everybody. Real Willie?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
he'd love that.
Yeah, we'll go shoot some pool. We'll jam
wanna
some JT
come.
while we're doing it.
Oh
Yeah, man.
Do you like shuffleboard?
Let's do it. I love
Me too. I can never
shuffleboard.
find anybody to play with.
I love it.
I love
The
shuffleboard, too.
hard part is finding a place to go play.
Okay,
I have a
Ben.
place
I
I'll
play
tell you
cards.
later.
Ben, if you're listening to this episode, I don't know what's written in the rules of our work about commingling with your subordinates, but I mean we're a family. It's a family-owned business. They keep things light.
Yeah.
Why don't we give him a call, Nick?
Come on, Ben.
Nah, I'm not gonna give him a call.
Oh, he's on the field.
He's on the field right now.
Oh, come on.
He's probably getting yelled at by some coach. We don't want to.
Aw.
No, but
the
I
hardest
man,
thing to watch.
I feel
Yeah.
like after talking to you, I was like, man, I'm not gonna give him. I might give him like a little bro hug with a little bit of dap next time I see him.
yeah.
It'll be more than
You can
the,
do a good
how are
game.
you doing, sir?
You
Huh?
can do a good game to him.
No,
I do
that'll
it all the
probably.
time.
I'd probably be in HR if I,
do
did
it
that.
so much.
Nah.
I do good game too much. He walks around like this all the time now.
Yeah.
Like,
That's awesome.
if he goes
okay.
up the stairs, he hears me.
No. I see a booty. I gotta smack it.
Same. Ooh,
I gotta
That's
smack
what's
it.
up.
I
That's what's
can't
up.
help myself.
Well, I want to tell you the same thing I tell everybody who comes on the show. When you come on here, we want you to feel like your family, your squad, you're part of it. We hope you'll continue to listen to
Do I
us.
get a
And
T-shirt?
yeah, I'll send you a T-shirt.
Get you a t-shirt.
Yeah, for
yes.
sure. I'm gonna
That's the
send
whole
you
reason
and
she
Ben.
came on here, Nick. She's like, I'm going to get that
I'm here
T-shirt
for
when
the
I leave.
T-shirt.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you a
Yeah.
When
T-shirt.
y'all get those lighters, I want one of those.
Yeah. We're gonna get T-shirt,
Yeah,
lighter, coffee
lighters.
cup.
I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but I still want
Well,
one.
we're working on
Candles.
doing.
I don't smoke, but I always have a lighter on me because people always ask me for a lighter. Like, I guess I look like I smoke.
Well, what if you have
the
a...
tat.
You do have that image. Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
But not the breath.
or the smelly hair.
Sorry, I
But
don't
no,
smoke cigarettes.
what we need to do is get a working inventory going, so I could just rip a shirt out of the closet for you.
That's what I'm saying. We need
Hand it to you.
a treasure box.
A treasure box. I like that
We gotta
idea.
put it on the wheel.
Yes, I like that
Oh, that
idea.
would be cool.
I like
You
that
can
idea.
Spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel. This is what you get out of the treasure box.
Or you can have a guest spin the wheel, and one of the viewers that comment can win the prize.
Okay, I like that too. See, this is why we needed women on this show, bro.
Hey.
They bring the ideas.
Well,
Naomi
I-
has been like a
I noticed
godsend.
that the ideas are kind of flowing when we don't have one person here. So, I mean, I'm maybe.
Oh, by the way, our other producer is also an employee. That Ben is also his boss. so I'm
that's
sad he wasn't here
funny.
today.
He's the boss of everybody. I'm like, what? Like we actually.
He's
was-
got to be the boss here because he's not the boss at home now, is he?
No. Ben's
I'm just kidding.
Well, I know, but he's unwavering. He's an oak.
Yes. I imagine Ben being the boss at home.
We
the
have
way he
to.
is.
We have to be bosses in our own, lane, and then
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's how
make
it
a
works.
consensus.
That's how it works. Alrighty. Well, Minnie, thank you so much for joining us. I
course.
want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. Thank you for your patience. It's been an interesting week, but we're trying to slowly but surely get back on this train. We want to thank all of our sponsors. And please reach out to our sponsors if you need any of the services they provide. And if you're a listener and you don't watch the YouTube channel, go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Just check it out. It's fun. You get to see our beautiful faces. If you're a YouTube viewer, and it's much more safe to listen while you're driving. Don't have YouTube on and watching while you're driving. Like, get in your car, flip over to Apple Podcasts or Google
you
Podcasts.
have to say that right
or
now.
Spotify. But it's
You do.
true.
It's sad but true.
It's true. I don't want to be responsible for any accidents.
You say that, but I'm the one that has our podcast playing on my center console on YouTube to make sure that I look and sound good.
Don't do that, Josh.
Tell people
If
your
I knew
business.
your middle name,
Don't do that, Josh.
It's William.
Joshua William Beard.
Don't do that.
You're supposed
But yeah, I mean, guys, wherever you like to listen, wherever you love to listen, we appreciate you so much. Please subscribe, leave us a comment, leave us a like. Let us know what you think about the show. Give us some input, because this is a podcast by the people and for the people. All right, guys. Well, we're going to get out of here. And once again, I want to thank our special guest, Minnie Wood. I'm going to, for my producer, Josh Beard, I am Nick Stevenson.
And I am Naomi Richardson, and I will catch you next time.
You've been listening to the Smells Like Middle-Aged Spirit podcast. For more show content, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to visit spiritswagstore.com for everything you need to rep your favorite podcast in style.